Oh, damn it. All right, boys.
Moving on.
We got two main topics this week. We are at about how long we wanted the show to run, so we'll try and keep these a little concise if we can. The first one's a big one, though. Honkin' Beefer. Blizzard has gone through the ringer in the last couple of weeks. They are being sued by the state of California's Department of Fair Employment and Housing for gender-based discrimination and sexual harassment of female workers that has been going on for apparently years. They gave Blizzard the chance to remedy these actions. Blizzard did not do anything. Therefore, they brought the lawsuit. And this has created just an avalanche of shit. It was, as we talked about earlier, this was a watershed moment.
Oh, okay.
They brought the lawsuit against Blizzard. The employees decided to protest after that. And it all culminated with J. Allen Brack stepping down and two people taking his place. Scott, it's most fresh in your mind, I think, because you just read through all the articles. What stood out to you the most about this? Were there any details that really?
No, I mean, everyone's trying to act like they have plausible deniability, but no one does. Everyone's accountable, and they're literally playing hot potato with responsibility. And the thing is, if you not only observed and didn't correct the behavior, but participated in it, it's fucking disgusting, man. Like it makes sense though, right? Like one of the largest gaming companies, one of the first breakout PC gaming companies, full of people who probably were socially awkward, never got paid attention to when they were younger, and when they got older, got a little bit of power, they used it to sexually harass and abuse the fuck out of their workers.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it was right, but I'm saying it's easy to put one and one together and figure out that it makes fucking two. The most offensive thing about this to me is the initial response from PR was to deny it and to say that the allegations were disrespectful and irresponsible for the lawsuit. When the lawsuit does ascertain that the treatment and the work environment at Blizzard, the culture there, whatever you want to call it, the social climate, may have been responsible for a young girl who took her life who worked there. No one's saying that that's the sole reason. It's a tragedy. Obviously, there's no joking about something like this.
Mm-hmm.
But to say that something like that wouldn't play a factor when you're working 10, 12-hour days in that environment, that to me is just egregious. You can't cultivate something like that, and then when something bad happens, step back and put your fucking hands up. Like, who are you to dictate what is right and what is wrong, what is responsible and irresponsible when that is how you run your business, when that's the kind of behavior you allow in a workplace? It's not a happy hour after work, and even there, that's gross.
Yeah.
And it's to me like who the fuck are you? Like, your moral compass is about as effective as your fucking looking for group system, and you want to try to tell people how they should live their lives. Like, you're fucking. I'm sorry. There's a lot to it. But that's initial thoughts on the lawsuit itself.
There's a lot of really disgusting it's not like they were just saying that there was a couple complaints here and there of sexual harassment. There's a lot of truly disgusting things in this lawsuit. And before I talk about any of them in particular, Derek, overall thoughts on Blizzard?
No, I mean, Scott kind of hit all of it. I think when you have there has been this shift, and we've talked about this on the podcast, not in this light, of course, but over the course of our lives where things associated with nerd culture, like video games and comic books and superheroes and things that were interests of sort of social outcasts back then, are very mainstream now. And so, yeah, it is easy to see how a bunch of guys who started this company when these things were social outcast qualities, and all of a sudden to see themselves become rock stars, it's almost like nerds versus jocks. And they're like, oh, well, we're kind of the jocks now, right? So we can do whatever we want. What's scary in these scenarios, in my company, for instance, we're so on the lookout for sexual harassment that when it happens, it's like this thing that pops up and you quarantine it, you 86 the employee, and then it's done. It's like when it's this singular occurrence, it's easy to deal with. Or easy to report on is what I should say. You feel safe knowing that those are the rules. You have people who support you around you, and the offending employee will be gotten rid of. When the leaders of the company and the management in that company, when it's happening everywhere, when it's happening at work outings, when it's happening at work, when
Right.
you have things like the breastfeeding room not having a lock on it and male employees coming in and staring at breastfeeding moms, where do you go? I can see why you would feel like, well, who can I report this to? That guy I saw hitting, their HR exec I saw hitting on a woman last week. Like, that's the scary part about it. When it's so widespread in a company that it's the norm, of course you'd be afraid to report it. That's always sort of the weapon that people use against these allegations. Well, why are we hearing about all this now? Why'd everybody wait until now? Because it's so fucking rampant in the company that I would feel weird saying something too. If I was the one who was sexually harassed. I understand it completely. That's the most disturbing part about it to me, is that it's so common that a lot of these employees just didn't know who to talk to or who would take them seriously, because a lot of people wouldn't have. And that's really it. That's really my only first thought on it. It's just disturbing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, some of the tamer allegations, which is kind of a gross thing to have to even say, but one of the tamer allegations, cube crawls in the office. Men would come in celebrating that they were hungover. They would go cube to cube and drink alcohol. They would subject women to conversations about their sexual encounters, talking openly about female bodies, making jokes about rape. There's, and that's like you said, that kind of delves into the breastfeeding, no lock on the door type of behavior. But that's the tamer allegations. There's way grosser shit than that. There's an unnamed Blizzard CTO who was observed groping inebriated female employees at the company event. Alex Afrasabi, or Alex A, I guess we'll just say. This motherfucker,
the senior creative director.
Former senior creative director was basically permitted to engage in blatant sexual harassment. They had other employees pulling him off of women, and he was like hanging on, saying he wanted to marry them, trying to kiss them. His fucking hotel room was dubbed the fucking Cosby Suite. It had a picture of Bill fucking Cosby in the room because he was so known to just make women uncomfortable.
There's also a picture of them all wearing Cosby sweaters, isn't there?
Yeah. All sitting on the bed with a big fucking portrait of Bill Cosby around it.
Yeah,
and then there's, besides those kind of like insane things that you're like, what, that actually happened? There's really disgusting stuff about sexual discrimination against women for promotions. Like, the manager commented that they could not risk promoting her as she might get pregnant and like being a mom. Like, that's a fucking quote. Like, they actually put that on a piece of paper.
Yeah. That screams, I've never finished inside of a woman. I've never made a woman finish. What that does. I'm so like that to me, like you can, like, is there a more incel quote? Like, if there was an incel the video game, that'd be the quote on the front of the box, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Dude, that's a genuinely, like, just in case any listeners aren't aware, that is a genuinely illegal thing to say to someone concerning a promotion. When I was in HR, I remember my boss sitting me down and saying, if anyone comes in and they tell you things about their kids or their pregnancy or whatever, that's fine. You just neutral response. You never ask a question about someone's, do you want to get pregnant? Are you pregnant? Do you have a babysitter for you? You cannot ask any questions whatsoever involving pregnancy, their kids. Do they have a babysitter? Age. It all falls under the same, like, race, religion. Like, it's the same thing. Motherhood is as protected as any of those other classes. It is completely illegal. The jury is not out on it. When I read that, I couldn't believe that. I couldn't fucking believe that. That was the first thing when I was in HR that my boss sat down and talked to me about. You never ask about anything dealing with motherhood with a woman, ever.
Yeah, but it's none of your fucking business.
It's none of your business, and it's a fucking lawsuit for the company.
Yeah. And I know we've all moved on from World of Warcraft. None of us have really been playing lately, but there have been. We'll put it in air quotes, in solidarity with the employees of Blizzard who walked out. People logged in and logged out, which to me is the dumbest fuck. Like, just cancel your sub, right?
Just don't log in, you big dummy. What are you doing? You're still giving them money.
You logging out for one day while still paying your sub does nothing. But also on the other end of the spectrum, I see a lot of people being shamed. They're content creators who play this game, who've been playing it for years, or it's maybe their favorite game, it's all they play. And people are kind of like, I've used this term before, I don't know if I've used it on the podcast. It's like they're virtue signaling, like they're lighting the fucking beacons of Gondor. And it's like, it's just like, you can't tell somebody how to grieve when a loved one dies. Everyone processes things differently. Some people want to distance themselves from the game with what's going on right now. Some people want to fight for it in their own eyes. But what's really weird to me, and not as disgusting as the allegations, obviously, but also disgusting to me, is that people are being put in a position where they feel like they have to justify why they're playing something they like to play.
Yeah.
You're already paying for it. If you're already subbed, you should be playing it. If you decide that you want to keep playing regardless of what's going on here, that's fine. That should be perfectly fine. You're an adult. It's your money. You make your decisions.
But also,
private
servers are a thing, fellas.
Yeah.
You can just play the game you like to play, but not give Blizzard any of your money. It is an option.
Can you imagine, like, the Blizzard devs are like, oh shit, we had a big login spike here. We must be doing something right. Like, these fucking idiot protesters.
They were like, woo!
Must have really liked that new shitty store mount we put up, guys.
Yeah.
Got them.
These guys like sexual assault. That's not even a funny joke. Felt bad about it immediately. I apologize immediately before you make a blog about it. I'm sorry, listeners.
The end result of all of this is culminated in, like I said earlier, J. Allen Brack stepping down from Blizzard and two people taking his place. There is a woman and male team. Jen O'Neill and Mike Ybarra were named as the co-leads, which honestly feels like a pretty hollow gesture. But I don't know. I don't think they had a play here that would not have felt like a hollow gesture. I think the only way...
Yeah, but this kind of feels like we're both the boss now, right? Like...
Right, no. It feels gross, but at the same time, if they had just said, we have a woman CEO, we all would have been like, oh, okay, guys, like, we get it. Yeah. You just got in trouble for sexual harassment, now there's it doesn't matter what option they take, the only thread of hope they have as a company to salvage their reputation is just time and doing the right thing, and I don't have a lot of faith that they're going to do that at all.
Yeah, also,
this just feels empty to me.
Isn't it great we don't have to say J. Allen Brack's awful ponytail ever again?
That's pretty gross.
He looks like Dr. Aglavang Bakal, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever the fuck that guy's name was, Anglavang Bakal?
I prefer that you don't know and just keep doing variants.
Okay. It's like Benedict Cumberbatch, right? Like, it's like, you don't need to know the name. You know it when you hear someone try to say it. You know who they're talking about.
Angela Von Bangle.
Angela Von Butterscotch. Ankle monitor. Pinochle. I would like to say in closing, if for me closing anyway, if you feel the need to protest, do so. But if you feel the need to protest, logging out for 4 hours when they're still getting that monthly sub isn't doing a fucking thing.
Yeah, you're big dumb.
Money is the only thing that talks. If you want to protest, and I'm not telling you what to do, I think if you want to play the game, you should 100% play the game. But if you want to protest and you want to hit them where it hurts, hit them in their fucking wallet. Unsub and boycott their games. If you want to protest, that's the way to do it. Half-ass protesting is just you lighting a fucking beacon to say, I'm a good person for 4 hours, so you can shit on people who didn't do what you did. It says a lot about where we are, at least on woke Twitter at this point, that in the face of something like this, there's infighting amongst people who both agree this is egregious behavior. Like live together, die alone, bro. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Be an adult. It's your money. Spend it how you want to spend it. But don't go out there and pick on other people who maybe have this as their only outlet after a 12-hour shift. Don't go after content creators who have been doing this for decades. The game's been out for 17 fucking years. This game's been out longer than fucking YouTube's been relevant. You understand that? Like, people who came up creating content on every platform, most of them have probably only played this game if they're playing it still. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people like Asmongold, who is definitely an anal polyp of a human being, but that was his whole shtick for a decade, wasn't it? And he's not the only one. There's way more. There's plenty of other content creators who are way more bearable, and that's their only source of income at this point. So
Yeah.
shut the fuck up.
And my last point would be that because you brought him up, I mean, there's even kind of a seismic shift happening amongst those content creators. So Asmongold has been playing Final Fantasy and garnering just huge numbers because that community is very, very excited to be getting the attention it's getting right now.
Yeah.
He's still been in World of Warcraft here and there, from what I understand, but not really, because there's really nothing to do right now. That's the other big complaint against Blizzard, is that they've been fucking World of Warcraft's content release cycle up so much that like it's just worthless to go in. And then the other thing is this guy named Preach, and I mentioned him I think in the chat, but he's a little more obscure. But he's been like the top fucking content creator for WoW at certain points in their history. It's all he does. It's all I've ever known him for. He has decided to just not touch the game anymore, like at all. His content, his channel. He was like, look, if you guys decide to leave, I understand. I can't in good conscience continue to make content for them for the content reason and also for the lawsuit reason. He's like, look, they've been fucking over the people who play this game for a long time, and now they're in this big embroiled lawsuit that I can't in good conscience be behind. So there does feel like an exodus from them of not only players but content creators, and honestly, good.
Yep.
Fucking deserve it.
And my last point is, I can't wait to eat chicken noodle soup, a nice hot bowl. I didn't have a last point, but you guys both did, and I felt like I just needed something. And the only thing that's really on my mind is that I planned, just so you guys know, just kind of buckle in for a second. I kind of planned, I had the tea to soothe my throat throughout this whole thing. But I was planning, once we were done here, fire up some chicken noodle soup.
Nice.
Some CNS, slam it down the gullet. That's my final thought.
Okay, we only have one thing left, so you're right there. You're almost at the finish line.
I can smell it almost.
Very quickly though, can I ask you guys, how does it feel to watch WoW, a game that has simplified its mechanics time and time again, down to the bones, basically, to make it more easily accessible for like casual players, lose most of their fan base in a mass exodus to Final Fantasy XIV, which has one of the most complex systems in any MMO I've ever seen in my fucking life.
I am at the end game just about for Final Fantasy XIV. I am at I'm 80 on the Black Mage that I've been playing, and the combat, the rotation's very complex. It's the exact opposite of WoW. I have like a fucking 16 button opener sequence, and it sounds daunting, but
awesome. It sounds fucking great.
Once you get into it, it's a ton of fun. Like
Final Fantasy XIV, the only reason I stopped playing it is because it's a fucking undertaking, just like any other MMO. But that game is fucking good, dude. That is a fucking good MMO.
The storyline in the latest expansion is very good too.
Yeah, and it's literally, you can play it like a single player game. Apparently, like you don't ever have to group up with anyone. There's like a cohesive story throughout. But it's a solid game.
They introduced something to the game called trust companies. You literally can, not like the shitty band that was out in the early 2000s.
Was that I hate everything about you?
That sounds familiar. Sure. Where you literally make a team of like bots of your companions. It makes the dungeons take longer. The story required dungeons take longer because they don't do as much damage. But you never have to talk to another human being for the entire expansion.
You don't have to have friends.
That sounds great though to me, honestly, because like hopping on this big expansive world and just zoning the fuck out, just smoking a little weed, farming, crafting, questing.
That's what I was gonna say, dude. I have my most fun in MMOs when I am blasted high. So like to be with other
totally
people
alone.
and like I'll just hear people talking and all of a sudden they're like Derek, like coming out of like a fucking cave or something. I'm like, oh my god, they've been talking to me the whole time. So yeah, that's actually a huge plus for me. Huge.
Yeah.